Right, the last item on the agenda is the proposed ground lease at Puna Sports Hub, but I'm going to hand over the chair to the Deputy Mayor.
Are you by any chance working on your...
Okay, so item 18 relates to the so item 18, hearings panel, proposed ground lease at Puna Sports Hub for Netzel Centre. All right, so we've got people indicating they want to move in second, but what I'm going to do first is to invite Tim as the chair of the hearings panel that heard this, just to make some remarks.
Yeah. Just saying. Yeah. All right, I'm here. But thank you very much. And first of all, I'd like to thank staff because the hearing was held under COVID-19 conditions, so it was live streamed. There were a few difficulties, but I really want to thank staff for the efforts that they made. I also really want to thank the submitters, those who sent in written submissions, and those especially who took the time and effort to come in via Zoom. There were some challenges there for many, and we really appreciated their input. And I'll take it, the paper is read, but I do want to go over a couple of things. There were 93 submissions. There were 16 from official organisations, and 12 of who were in support and 4 that weren't. And out of the 93 submissions, a total of 70 were in favour and 22 weren't. I also want to make it clear that the hearings panel was purely looking at the lease and a recommendation to council whether to grant or not a ground lease to the Netzel facility. Keeping in mind that Puna has been and is a metro sports hub, which is an absolutely outstanding vision and a reality, and this is the type of thing that does fit in that, so therefore the land where they want to go is designated for this project. So I just want to make that clear. There was 180 pages, or around 180 pages of information to go through, and that was from council staff and both the applicant and submitter, so there was quite a lot to go through, and I want to thank my fellow panel members for reading all of them and coming up with some really good questions. And we were, attachment H on page 247 goes over the 15 questions that we really came up from the submitters' concerns. We actually adjourned the hearing to allow staff to go and really get some good solid answers to those questions. Then we reconvened and followed those through. I guess that a couple of things there. One was, whilst the recommendations suggested to council staff through the construction phase that the construction vehicles avoid the Wigram and use Wigram Road and McMahon Drive, because one of the specific concerns from the riding from the disabled was disturbance from the industrial vehicles, so that was recommended to staff. But probably the main thing for the residents and the local groups were the traffic issues, and staff have and are undertaking and will take a comprehensive traffic management plan, and that's a really crucial thing. So it covers the internal workings of Ngāi the main entrances into Ngāi and the residential streets around Ngāi. And one of the crucial things there was that with the residential streets, they will go back to the Hallsville, Hornby, Riccarton Community Board to discuss those and put through those recommendations, and that is essential. The other main point here is the area has a resource consent which there has to be some undertakings within the next 8 years, and one of those is the entrance in from Wigram Road. We have recommended that that is put up as a priority for the long-term plan as the number one key thing, and to make Wigram Road entrance the number one entrance into Ngāi, and staff have picked that up. And there was also concern about the size of the building and its effect on the visual amenities to the local community. So we've asked council staff to look at planting around the building to mitigate that, and also the lights on the building and in the car park to be timed with all the other lighting in the area with regards to turning off at 10 p.m. A couple of other things, just the cycleway into Ngāi, and also to work with ECAN to look at a public transport plan, because if it's going to be, and it is a hub, a metro sports hub, then it would seem logical to have public transport for all into that area. I'll leave it there. I'm sure that my fellow panel members would like to say a few words, but I'm happy to take any questions, but I think the brains of the operation is sitting at the head of the table there. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Tim. And I also have had some feedback on the way that the process ran. Clearly, you were balancing a number of conflicting issues and concerns, particularly from the local community, and certainly it was seen as a well-managed and well-run process. So thank you for that, and thank you for your update as well.
Could I add to that, Chair?
Please do.
And also, Tim, to say thank you from the staff, because they felt very well supported through that process as well.
Great. So are there any questions? Jimmy.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to ask staff the NASO group is a private-profit company, or is the non-profit organization?
Thank you, Councillor. It is a non-profit organisation. It is a private company, but it's tax exempt. Its directors can only be charitable or non-profit organisations. So in this case, they are netball, Canterbury Netball, which runs the community netball, doesn't run the franchise netball, and it's Mainland Football that runs the community football. If there is any change in any directorship of that entity, they must also be not-for-profit and charitable organisations. Any, I guess, profit, for want of a better phrase, that they may generate as a consequence of operations must go back into those charitable community organisations.
Okay. Second question. Hearing panel, particular, in response or heard those 22, the submission does not support this proposal, and they have a recommendation to the council, particular focus on the travel plan for public transport, shared cycleway, route, additional entrance, etc. I just want to, to be aware whether there's enforceable or not enforceable for those, enforcement, implementation.
Sorry, by enforceable.
For implement all those recommendations.
To implement those initiatives.
Approved today. Yeah.
Right. Well, unfortunately, we can't enforce ECAN to do anything, but in terms of what council can invest in, it's absolutely achievable through its normal long-term planning processes. For those not familiar with Ngāi, the basic infrastructure is in place. So to connect the sporting hub to Wigram Road, for example,
yes,
there's a modest upgrade of an existing amount of infrastructure. In terms of bringing public transport, we absolutely, once we've completed what is going to be a very comprehensive traffic management plan, we'll definitely engage with Environment Canterbury to put the case for public transport to be put in place for the site.
Jimmy, 3 parts to it. One is the Puna venue. Council staff with the Puna family, if you like, will work with them with regards to traffic mitigation and management within that. The second part of that is that in the comprehensive traffic management plan, it is they will go back to the Hallsville, Hornby, Riccarton Community Board with regards to any mitigation and planning on the surrounding residential roads. So that's coming back to your community board, as it should do. The third part of that, as Andrew said, we can't make ECAN do anything. However, because it is a metropolitan sports hub and it should get support from our, for public transport, that is the side there. So those 3 issues have slightly different parts to it, but in a comprehensive traffic management plan, they're all essential.
Great, thank you. Mike, did you have something?
Yes, thanks. Just a couple of questions. I was reading in one of the reports that there will be a increase at the intersection and also up Augustine Drive. And it says that the intersection can sustain it, we anticipate traffic till 2028. But I'm just wondering about Augustine Drive. Actually, what is the increase likely to be on that drive once the facility is operational?
It's actually a matter that's been considered by the resource consent team in terms of granting the resource consent. It's the technical details around that are not part of the lease consideration under the Reserves Act, unfortunately. What I have had our sorry, I've just lost the email. Our transport team provide to me is some stats on what is happening right now, which is what the resource consent team considered, I presume. Not so much on volumes. It does talk about volumes to a degree. They are under what the Augustine Drive, is it Horswell Road, is it? Intersection can cope with. They haven't yet turned on the right turning arrow. The traffic volumes haven't met that demand. The main concern of the residents that was expressed during the hearing were traffic, and in particular speed and speed mitigation and things like that, but as well as volumes. Sorry, I'll just backtrack a little bit. We will have to open another entrance to the facility before 2028. So the modelling in terms of volume that the resource consent team considered when they granted NETSL the resource consent has done the modelling on traffic volumes. So by 2028 we must have another entrance to Ngāpunawai. The other concerns that were raised around traffic, and I know it's not part of your question, but just so you're aware, were around speed and perception of speed. The data doesn't support that. The data suggests that the speeds are rarely breached, and by a small number of visitors to Ngāpunawai. We have, however, through the hearing, heard the residents, and we've made a comprehensive commitment to do a comprehensive traffic management plan, well above and beyond what legally, if you like, we would need to do to make sure that we can address any of those concerns.
Yeah. I hear that, and we've currently got one in St Albans that's not really that fondly thought of by the community. So all these, I guess, any mitigation in terms of traffic calming or this new entrance, it won't be on budget at the moment, will it? So there'll have to be a bit to the long-term plan. Was any money on budget for any of the potential traffic calming?
Well, that's really if traffic calming inside
or entrance. Well,
I mean, in the streets, it's really a question for transport, but they're relatively minor and modest investments. You know, speed humps and slight narrowing initiatives. They're relatively modest investments. The challenge, I guess, is they don't tick the box in terms of risk at the moment. However, if we expedite the opening of Wigram Road as an initiative through the LTP, it will, I would suggest, significantly reduce the amount of traffic that needs to enter through Augustine Drive.
What's the time frame for this build?
This is going to be presented to you in the LTP
Yeah.
to be front-loaded at the front end of the next long-term plan, so that's 2022.
Okay.
That's very soon.
Yep.
All the preliminary work in terms of costings has already been done.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Are there any further questions? Anne?
Thanks, Andrew. And thank you for the way that you and the team have continually answered and provided information all through this to our questions. Just wondering about the parking situation. At the moment, when there is an event at Ngā Puna Wai for hockey or whatever, the space that is actually being could be leased for this facility is used as parking to overflow.
Mm-hmm.
So what considerations have been given to parking situation once that land is built on? Where will those cars park that now use
Sure.
now use that space?
Sure. So there has been occasions with events, typically, rather than normal every weekend activity, where some of that land, not all of it, has, in fact, it's never come close to all of it, has been utilised at different times for overflow car parking. And the reason for that has obviously been to try and keep people out of the residential areas. And I know I keep sounding like a broken record, but that's exactly what the traffic management plan is for, is to look at the site and work out how we can ensure that the appropriate amount of parking can be provided for on the site. And I guess there is quite a lot of residual land around the facilities that can over time, as demand increases, be converted for that purpose. Again, the broken record. We'll be bringing all of that information back to you, to your board, for consideration.
Yep, sure.
And I know that I raised this question with you the other day, but it is quite good, I think, for others to understand that, when this report first came, there was a site identified that was different from this place, and it was near on land that was owned, or leased by the AMP Association. Can you give us a bit of an outline of why those other sites are now not being considered for this facility, just for those who are listening who are interested?
Sure. So I think the first and most important thing to recognise is this is not a council-led initiative. This is an external party requesting a lease utilising the Reserves Act process. They expressed a desire, after many years of looking around trying to find fee simple land and private land, to look at the broader Canterbury Agricultural Park and Puna Wai site. Their preference around August last year was on the Canterbury Agricultural Park portion of the land. At that point, we introduced them to CAPA, or the Agricultural Pastoral Association, so that they could have that discussion in any negotiations. Council couldn't be a part of those negotiations because CAPA had legal entitlement to that land. Unfortunately, they weren't able to reach an agreement in a time frame that suited both parties. So on the 24th of December last year, they came to Council and asked us if there are any other areas on that site that could be considered. Whilst it's a very large site and seems to be primarily open space, the only available sites in Ngā Puna Wai, when you take out of the equation all of the land drainage devices, the Canterbury Polo grounds, the only available site is this subject site, which is the undeveloped part of the community recreation space that was designated for this purpose. So Netzel looked at two options within that space, one being close to the entrance in Augustine Drive, and also at the other end of that section of land. My understanding is that they came to their conclusion to apply for the site that they have applied for simply because the cost of getting infrastructure from the Augustine Drive end to that end of the site was cost prohibitive. So that was what determined their decision to apply for this lease on that piece of land. So yes, I know it's frustrating for the community. They look at a big wide open site, but it's highly encumbered.
Thank you. No further questions? All right, so people were indicating they wanted to move and second this right at the very beginning. Was that Aaron and Jake? Yep, so moved by Aaron, seconded by Jake. Is there any debate?
Yeah.
Okay, so Jimmy and then Anne. Jimmy.
Because these are the resource concern has been approved already, but the council, our hearing panel focus on is whether to lease those piece of land to the NASO group, etc. But majority of the submissions fully is the support those piece of land for the future and those NASO the group for the other kind of metro sports, the kind of the activities pretty good, but still have 22, almost a quarter, 25% of the people, on behalf of the community or individuals, particular concern, all those that are the public transport issue, the traffic issue, noise issue, and entrance, etc. My understanding, the hearing panel done a great job because we review their recommendation, paragraph 4 until paragraph 9, always all focus on here. But only concern is whether all those, the paragraph in here can be working together for, to implement and for the enforcement all these items more effectively and efficiently, and give the community and give the people more confidence. So today I'm support the hearing panel because they review all the kind of the submission and also to listen all the oral submission. But regarding to all this one is mitigate all those effects, give the community more confidence. So we need to be more careful to monitor these several paragraphs, the more effective, efficient. This is my concern. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Anne.
Thank you. I was on the hearing panel and I voted against giving the lease to Netzel because even though this is an amazing opportunity and it's a fantastic facility, and I'm all about, as we all are, encouraging sport and especially women's sport, and we really want our city to have this amazing opportunity. However, I'm not confident that this is the best place for it. In fact, I believe that I would really like the council to get Netzel and the AMP show committee together and just try and work out another site, another option before we have to absolutely rule that out. The traffic issues that this is going to create for this neighbourhood are going to be really, really difficult, and I believe will be create in the long run a lot more aggravation and difficulty for council. I believe the streets around this area are not built for this level of traffic, and the congestion that it will bring will mean that our children, our families won't be able to bike and walk to school. We already have issues along Aidenfield Drive with congestion. This area was developed a wee bit like a country lane type situation. Parking on either side severely inhibits people being able to drive safely. I think that the parking is going to be pushed out onto the streets, and I believe that this is not the best site for it, so I will not be supporting this today.
Thank you. Tim.
I'll round it off. Look, I think the vision for a metropolitan sports hub for the city is an absolutely outstanding one, and I think that this is the right place for it. There is no question that there has to be some work, and council staff have recognised that, and that is why they are coming up with this comprehensive traffic management plan, which will totally control or look at the internal running of the Puna Sports Hub with regards to all the partners, not just Netzel, but hockey, rugby league, athletics, tennis, etc. So I think that that's a really good step forward. We've recognised that there are going to be traffic issues, and that is why staff are going to be putting forward in the long-term plan to move Wigram Road and the development of that as the main entrance to this fantastic Metropolitan Sports facility, rather than Augustine Drive, etc. So that is all underway. So I think that is those that who are concerned have been listened to, but to start spreading things around kills the whole idea of the vision that of a Metropolitan Sports facility. So I'm really looking forward to hopefully getting support around the table and seeing where we go. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Aaron.
Just quickly, of all the years that I've been on council, and not as long as it could have been, but it's been a few, this is possibly one of the best deals that I've seen that was offered to the city. And when you think about facilities for Christchurch Inc., this is a fantastic facility, and Ian's right, especially around women's sport as well. A beautiful, stunning indoor facility, and all of those external funds coming in. If you look, and like I do, I don't always use the dictionary, I go straight to the Pictionary if it's available, and if you look at the definition of no-brainer, there's a picture of this deal sitting there on the page. It is a no-brainer.
Great, thank you. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? Abstain. And an abstention from Pauline. So Anne voting against and an abstention from Pauline. That's carried. Thank you.